All right, leaders, it's Tuesday, October 15th, and I am super excited about this class. Um, it's just a class that we're calling How to Be a Great Leader. And what I thought we would spend the next 3 Tuesday nights examining are all of the things that we can do, daily habits, weekly habits, monthly habits, quarterly habits, and yearly habits that really will help your team to produce more, keep you on track, making sure that your personal business stays where it needs to be, even when you're overwhelmed with the team, which, sometimes are more demanding than others when it comes to the team. And just how to kind of keep everything moving smoothly alongside your full-time or part-time job, alongside your kids, alongside your other commitments, hobbies, family members that you care for, whatever it is that you have going on in your life, how you can still be a great leader consistently all around it. And I thought we be good to do this because we do have a number of new leaders, but we also have a number of leaders at a new level of leadership, which brings along with it new responsibilities, new time demands, and just changes to the overall structure of what you need to do. We also have some new direct appoints. And of course, I feel like anytime we can learn more about leadership is always a plus because there's always something new to learn and new ideas and things like that. So I'm super glad that you guys were so into doing this and that so many of you made it a point to be on live tonight. I think that's fantastic. So, just congratulations is how I would start this because leadership doesn't just show up. It's not just given. It's not just, even if you're a direct appoint, you still earned it somehow. You may have earned it at another company. You may have earned it, somewhere other than Park Lane, but it was still earned. So, and you're doing the job here, and that's fantastic. So I'm just always thrilled to have new leaders coming onto the team. I love that when we have new areas, it brings new voices and new ideas and new freshness to our Thursday leader calls and just to the team in general. I think it's great to always have these new leaders coming in. And I really do believe and pride ourselves on being a team that supports and shares and cares, because I just feel like there's really no other way to do it. There are definitely teams that are not as sharing, whether it's with other teams or within the team, and there's just no reason for it. Just like we teach new people, everybody can promote to every level. It's not like because Belinda promoted to senior division that now Jennifer and Elizabeth aren't allowed to, and there's room for everybody to be a senior division. There's room for every current branch to be an area. There's just absolutely no problem with any of that. So there's never any reason to withhold ideas or information. And no one does, so it's really quite fabulous. Although, as a reminder, sometimes I feel like as leaders, you accidentally hold things back because you think everyone else is doing it. So every once in a while, how I'll message you like, hey, that's a great idea. Why don't you post it in the blah, blah, blah? Or why don't you share that on? And you guys are always positive response. You pretty much always say, oh my gosh, okay. So whenever you're doing something that you think everyone's doing or you think is normal, 99% of the time, it's not normal. It's a great idea. And if it's not a new idea to everybody, it's definitely a valuable reminder. So please continue to share things that you're doing. And if you're not sure, you can certainly always welcome to throw it by me first and say, hey, what do you think about me posting on this or sharing on this? Because I can always let you know, if either we just did it or definitely go ahead. Usually the answer is going to be definitely go ahead. So, okay. So tonight I thought we would talk about, first, 3 personal qualities that will bring you great success and will help you to continue to grow your team and be a true leader. So let's start there. 3 personal qualities. Quality number 1 is to keep a positive attitude. And I know that you hear this, but living it day to day is where it becomes more challenging. And it truly is the biggest factor to your success. Because when you do surround yourself with positive people, you tend to be more positive as well. So, you know what Mary Grace calls this, right? And she's taught it to us many times. We're living the secret. And the sooner that I pulled that into my vocabulary and my thinking, the more it seemed to surround me. You know, everything from, if I go to Roosevelt Field Mall, I go straight to the front row at Nordstrom and I say, I'm getting a front row seat. Seat. I like it's a concert. The mall. I believe I'm getting a front row parking spot at Nordstrom. When I go to the beach on the most crowded day, I go to the front row because I'm like, nope, someone's leaving and I'm getting their front row spot. And every time I pull in, my kids are like, we know, live in the secret, because I say it every time and I laugh. But it can really be so many things beyond business. Although when it's business, it is awfully fun. Jen last month was kind of all of a sudden, she's like, oh my God, the secret's happening. I forget what it was. Do you remember when you messaged that into the group chat? What was that?
I think it was just like,
was it a booking that came out of nowhere? I don't remember.
You need the double points and like some booking things, like just lots of things happening all at once. And it was like, well, okay, like there's the abundance. I just have to find it. I just have to acknowledge it.
Yep. And you know, the coming from abundance is another huge factor. That was a big thing that I needed to learn when I first started working with Mary Grace. And not too long after that, I totally did not have it in my notes to share this story, but I will. I had a leader. She's no longer with us, but I mean, she's alive. She's just not on the team. But she was always very complainy, always had an issue, always had a problem. And she like made a real issue out of returns. And somebody at the home office had told her, send me what you have and I'll take a look at it. Now, instead of just sending in like the 4 pieces that she had an issue with, she posted on her team page, everyone with a jewelry problem, bring it to my house and we're going to gather it all up. And she like turns it into this whole big thing. She gathered up like a bajillion pieces, many of which really had not like, were just people that were like, oh, let me get a different piece. So she mailed a box of like 60 pieces to Uncle Ray, who told her to send it. And then, of course, when it arrived, he was like, what? Because he didn't say, gather up your team and send me everything that's ever been a problem since the day you joined. Not to mention that some of what she sent was people's brand new stuff that would have been a free return. So now all this jewelry ended up being held hostage and there became a price on fixing it. And she was she was like, I guess then I just won't have a kit. And she was being a super unbelievable Eeyore about this. And finally, I called the home office and said, how much is it to fix this? And they told me the amount. And I said, can you commission adjust whatever it was a week until this is finished? And they said, we can definitely do that. So my commission was commission adjusted. I think I paid $100 a week for however long it took to get this corrected. And, you know, of course the girl was like, you didn't have to do that. I said, really? Because you made it a huge issue. You made it a huge issue for yourself and your team. And we're all losing brain cells over it. And every minute that we continue to talk about it, I lose money, so do you, and so does everyone on your team. So the jewelry's on its way, redistribute it, and this is over. And I have to say that after that, I can't say that like she changed her tune or whatever, because she was the same. She ended up quitting and is still the same from what I can see on Facebook. But what I know is that I learned the lesson of, you know, I was not, you know, I did not have the income that I have today at this time at all, but I knew that it needed to stop being a thing. I needed to end it and get that secret, that negativity out of my aura. And that did the job. And some of those girls are still on the team. Just that ultimate leader is not on the team. So it was a good lesson for me in that, you know, I didn't nickel and dime and say, how much is this going to cost either. It was just, okay, let's just fix it and let's just end it. So, you know, the positivity really, sometimes it's within your own team and you can choose how you want to get it away from you or how you want to manage it. But I do know that what you think about is what you bring about. And when you're thinking about cancellations and a team that doesn't work and all of that, it seems that you get more of it. Whereas when you shut it down and you decide that you're only thinking about the new bookings, the upcoming, the launch you have, somehow you have more. It's happening to me actively right now that as I started this month and I was like, okay, I haven't had like a good new recruit in some time. What's happening? Surely they're on the way. I now have 4, like out of nowhere. Hey, Michelle, want to join? Out of nowhere. Hey, I met, you know, one of your guests at a show and I want to join. All of a sudden I have 4. I closed the show and then that was my cousin Faith. I closed the show and 4 hours later, could I have signed up? Oh my God, what is wrong with me? So yeah, you know, I signed her up. Living the Secret. So if you've not read The Secret, or I've never watched the movie, but I know some people do that instead of reading the book, please do. Because whatever you're thinking about, when you think about kidnappers, you get kidnappers. When you think about $1,000 launches, you get $1,000 launches. Positive breeds positive, and make sure that your team is learning that lesson as well. And they best learn it seeing and hearing it from you, which kind of brings us into the number 1 rule of leadership, which is never, ever, ever, ever complain down to your downline. Never under you should somebody be hearing something that you don't like, a problem, a this, a that, your cancellation issues. None of that can be shared with the downline, because remember, they have you here. You don't always realize it. You're like, what? No, they don't. I'm just an area. No, they don't. No, they do. And they think, wow, if she's having this problem, I'm definitely going to have that problem too. So, you know, remember, your newer people and even, you know, leaders under you, they're always still building their belief. So they can't see your belief wavering. So Tom Judson always words it as thunder up, sunshine down. So that's why whenever there's like a big, if you ever have, because I'm not saying you never will have a reason to complain or you never will have an issue. I will say that usually Park Lane corrects it, you know, when you get caught in some sort of, you know, web support issue from hell or some sort of return, a problematic customer, generally it gets corrected by Park Lane. But, or you can handle it, or you and your upline, or me and you can fix it. Almost all the time it'll get worked out. But so please remember to always use your upline and those above your upline ending with me or possibly even Mary Grace for any support on challenges that you're facing, because there will be snafus and mess ups and this and that, because the whole company is run by human beings and there's no way for there to be perfection, but they generally always make it right. Many things can be handled from within, you know, if it's that, you know, the paper's not, if the paper's missing and Park Lane won't do it, okay, well then I probably have a paper, you probably have a paper, there's something we can do to handle it from within. So just remember, always up, never down. Okay. Keep yourself fed with good motivational materials. One of the things I learned at the gym with Belinda and Donna, you know, was that junk food isn't just food. It's what goes into your mind too. So when you, from a fitness standpoint, you know, they were saying stop following Instagram accounts where everything is photoshopped and, you know, they're showing fake bodies and, or, you know, it's just about who's better than who or whatever. That goes towards your business too, everything. Ashley, you're a big, you have a lot of knowledge on this as a psychologist and all that. I'm sorry, is that correct? You're a psychologist, right? Yeah. So she always has great knowledge about, how the mind works and how what is around you really can affect. Why do you think there's commercials all the time? You're sitting on the couch at night. If I put on Food Network, I will have food on my lap within 2 seconds. I had to stop watching Food Network so that I would stop eating so much at the end of the night. But, this power of suggestion. So we know power of suggestion is a thing. It's not debatable. So suggest positivity, suggest things that will uplift you. And that includes what you need to unfollow. So please unfollow anything that is making you feel bad. That can include anybody. There are times where I have unfollowed other leaders within Park Lane. There's times where I unfollowed, I don't know, just whatever, anything that was making me feel like, even just like, how you'll friend a hostess and then you realize, oh my gosh, all she does is post like passive aggressive, this and that and the other thing. When that show's over, unfollow, because I don't need to read her passive aggressive nonsense the 5 times a day she posted. Literally, I just unfollowed my hostess from last Friday today because I said, oh girl, we are done here now, because she never ever stops. And then, it kind of sends you into that Facebook rabbit hole. So don't question the source. Oh, she's my hostess, I should know. Oh, that's a big time leader, I should continue to follow her. Nope. Not if it makes you feel bad, not if it sends you into a rabbit hole, not if it makes you question things that you know are correct. So please feel free to do that. Your mind is very powerful, so don't let it take you astray of your goals. Does anyone want to add anything to that one section here about the positive attitude? Question or comment? Okay, so quality number 2 is to be a goal setter. Be a goal setter. Because remember, success is an achievement of the goals you set for yourself. Success is an achievement of the goals that you set for yourself. They are your goals. But that means that you have to have goals in order to know if you are successful. And so that you don't confuse your goal with someone else's goal. And that is one of the easiest things to do in this business, because you have someone like a Mary Grace, right, who is selling, 100,000. If you have a great month and you're like, I just had my best month ever, I sold $5,000 this month. And then you see that the top seller this month was Mary Grace or Shannon Pelosi, and they sold, Kate, they sold 12,000. That does not impugn your $5,000 best ever goal, even in the tiniest bit, because it's your achievement and you were super excited about it. And when the recognition comes out, you should be just as excited about it as you were before you saw that recognition. So please don't confuse your goal with others, because that's another thing that'll send you right down into the rabbit hole, and you'll feel, you're going to be missing out on the joy of the business. And I would hate to see that happen for you. So to that end, keep your goals in a visible place, whether you keep a list, whether you have a vision board. Some of you bought the planner where there's a spot to even put your vision board in your planner. And know what those goals are. Because if the why you want the goal isn't strong enough, then you will fade away from it, because life's not that different anyway. It's no big deal. I didn't want it that much, and it's amazing. Who was it that was talking about? I think it was Belinda. Belinda, did you tell us that every 6 months you redo your vision board? I know that she turned her camera off, so I'm not sure if she's...
It was Belinda, because I totally copied her.
Okay, good. So how are you finding that to work for you, Jen?
I just think that it's so important, especially in Park Lane, because we have a new trip every 6 months, and so new jewelry every 6 months. So really, it's super important to reevaluate and to readjust. Sometimes goals need to be readjusted in how you're going to get there, and so that 6 month spot is a good place to check in on yourself and just reevaluate things.
Yeah. And even the programs can change. I mean, now we've had this boss up for 3 months. So somebody who didn't have promote to senior division on their goal thing 4 months ago may have it on there now because the program changed or there's been some sort of new enhancement or whatever. So yeah, I love that business habit. So think about right now what your organization looks like today. And now think about what would you like your team or your organization to look like 8 to 10 weeks from now? Because that's a great thing to have on a list, a vision board, or even just that one goal posted somewhere. What do you want your organization to look like 8 to 10 weeks from now? Do you want it to be double the size it is right now? Do you want to have 3 new personal recruits and 3 new team recruits? Do you want to have 10 and 10? Do you want to have 4 new personals and 10 team? Do you want to promote 4 branches? So much of this depends on the size of the team you currently have. Because if you already have 20 people on your team, then obviously you can put a number on it that's high. If you just want to say a general term of double it and you have 2 now and that would bring you to 4, that's a goal too. So what do you want it to look like 8 to 10 weeks from now? Then all you have to do, and we can work on this together, or you can work on this with the immediate upline to you, is to break down those goals into smaller achievements, right? Just chunk it down and celebrate each step along the way. So what would be some examples of that? Let's say you're like, you know what? I'm going to do that re-promote to area challenge, which again, I suggest at every level. That's not just for areas. That's for divisions. That's for senior divisions, because when you do a re-promotion to area, that's where you're putting your focus on your central group. So re-promote to area means that you would get to celebrate along the way of, if we're using Boss Up, right? Every $300 active team member that is in your central group, you get to celebrate each of those things. You can celebrate the launch of a new team member or the launch of a fashion director's team member, right? So that's going to be a promotion to branch on your team. You can celebrate the personal sales that you did along the way. Then you get to celebrate, done. I re-promoted to area. And if you put that on your agenda as one of your goals every month, think about what you will look like in, let's say, 12 weeks from now, because that would be 3 months from now. If you put that as a hard and fast goal for the next 3 months, your team would grow by potentially 9 to 10 new team members in that time. For lots of us, that's, for some that is a double in size, for some that's a triple in size, for some that's just an increase, but it's a great spot to put your focus because it's your central group. And always remember that all goals can be achieved by starting by doing more shows. All goals can be achieved, or at least chipped away at, by doing more personal shows. That's the foundation of the business. And that's where we meet our best new customer, our best new host, and our best new team member. 99% of the time, they're at one of our upcoming shows. So the book 4 that we've been taught, or if you even want to take it up a notch to Mary Grace's personal version of Book a Show Every Day, you'll see a huge increase. Elizabeth took that challenge earlier in the fall. I want to say in September, she decided, I'm doing the Book a Show Every Day. And I think it's this month that she said she has 11 shows. So that is, it might even be more. But
she told me today that she was booked out through like November, a couple weeks into November.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's what it takes, the paying attention and the deciding, I'm booking a show every day, or I'm doing the book 4 every week. I know Beth is a huge believer in that as well, where she said, when I track it, I see it in my calendar, and when I don't, I see it in my calendar. And it really is true. So that brings us to the third quality, which is to develop a strong work ethic and to have integrity at all times. And it's funny because this seems obvious, but I find it almost shocking how many times I hear out there, oh, she didn't know she was entitled to that special, so I took it. Or, oh, I didn't bother telling that hostess about XYZ. Or, I don't offer the bonus item unless they take all 4 half-price items. These are things that people can find out about after and be really mad about. And they'd have every right to do so because the special is spend $90. So if they want to buy a gigabyte necklace and get a $25 second gigabyte necklace, they can do that. They don't have to do a 2 and 4. They don't have to take all 4 half price items. Now, are there ways to encourage them taking all 4? Of course, that's not the same thing at all. But withholding things people are entitled to, yeah, that's falls into that integrity part. But consistency really is the key. So with a consistent show schedule, consistent host coaching, consistent lead follow-up, consistent customer care, and a consistent social media presence, that's what brings you the smoothness that you need as a leader. Because if you're not doing these things consistently, you always feel like a hamster on a wheel that is never finished because you always feel behind. It's okay to decide, okay, I'm going to, with a power hour, you're going to do 15 minutes of each. And once you've done 15 minutes of each, it's okay to decide that you're done. Because especially if you have other things planned, if you have something else, if you have another commitment to get to, if you promised your kids you were going to the park that day, if you had a hair appointment, you go do and enjoy those things. If you didn't get as far as you wanted to, tomorrow's another day or later is another time. It's not that you have to work 24 hours, seven days a week, because that is not the joy of direct sales. You will miss out on the joy of making your own schedule, the joy of doing this around your job and other activities. So you are allowed to be finished. That a strong work ethic does not mean be a workaholic. It just means to be consistent. So 3 days, unless you're technically on vacation, 3 whole days of not working on your business, yeah, that's a problem. Especially if you find yourself doing it more and more. I find that anytime I have more than, because let's say I'm doing 2 shows a week, which is generally my schedule, 2 or 3 a week. But every once in a while I might have 1 in a week because of maybe something with the kids or, sometimes it just happens that way. But then if that one cancels, I'll go like what is really 2 weeks without doing a show. If I am not so grouchy and definitely starting to get on the I'm definitely on the cusp of negative by that point, and I start seeing things that I wouldn't have noticed if I had been busy enough. That's the kind of thing I mean that is affected by your consistency, because when you don't have a show to do, it's a lot easier to continue to not have a show to do than to go find one. And some of these sentences sound ridiculous when you say them out loud, but a bunch of you are also laughing and nodding, so you know what I mean. And really, you see it in the team, right? Because once somebody doesn't, nobody quits with a full calendar. So if people have shows, they stay in the business. Once they don't have shows anymore, it's very easy for them to quit. So that's what's going to, factor into the consistency as well. So again, that high level of integrity, both with your customers and with your team. So that means offering customers everything they're entitled to. Always offer your hostess everything they're entitled to, and that includes the opportunity of taking her show and turning it into her business. Now, these are things that you might say, well, who's not doing that? People on your team, because they don't want to give up the paycheck. Not everybody, obviously, I don't mean everybody, but there are definitely people on every single one of our teams that are like, I'm not doing that. I just did that show. I want that money. But that's very short-sighted thinking, because that's one day's paycheck, right? Whereas if you sign somebody and they work for a year, that's 365 days worth of paychecks that you are cutting yourself off from for the sake of keeping that one show. So when you run into that with your team, that's the kind of things that you want to remind them of, that a show is one day's pay. A team member can be years of pay, because what if she brings in your next unbelievable superstar? What if she brings in 3 more people that work a completely, totally average calendar? These are all things that are going to give you future growth. A paycheck is one day. A show is one day. It is much easier to replace a show than to find a different recruit. Much easier. So please, you don't, but certainly make sure that your team is not withholding what hosts are entitled to. Now, another thing that that falls into this integrity section is like gossip and stuff. So it's really important to not be gossiping either within the team, outside the team, or even like with your own group, because if your group hears you talking about somebody else in the group, they wonder if you're talking about them when they walk away. So it's a really important thing to remember, that it's almost like middle school, but it's not. We're like professional grown women, and we have to kind of keep these things always in mind as well. It damages trust, and trust is one of the biggest things that you're trying to build, because at some point as a leader, your team will be mad at you for something, or someone on your team will be mad at you for something. I'm pretty sure someone's mad at me almost all the time. Somebody is not happy with something I'm doing, I'm sure. However, it's really not my job to keep the whole team happy all the time. My job is to teach everybody how to run a business, how to keep customers generally happy, how to build and reach their goals. And sometimes that takes a little tough love. Sometimes it takes a little understanding, where you have to help a team member be more understanding of their team member or their sister leader. But when your downline and your downline leaders and stuff know that in general you always have their back, they'll be more understanding of you when you make a decision that they don't really like. Every once in a while, and it's really not often, because Mary Grace and I agree on a lot of things and how to do things, but every once in a while I'll be like, oh geez, I don't like that she did that or whatever, but I don't go after her about it, because she does get to make the decision, because it is her organization and I don't have to like everything that she does. And as a whole, she always has my back, and there are times she's had to go to bat for me for something I said or did or whatever. And so if I'm mad at her about something, which I can really only think of twice it was really the case, but when that has happened, I did have to say to myself, she's gone to bat for you 10,000 times. You're not having an argument about this. You're just letting this go, and tomorrow's another day. And I'm quite sure that that's happened with many of us, where you're like, I don't like that Michelle said that, but, she generally has my back, and I'm going to let this one go. Other times, some of you have had arguments with me. Some of you haven't. Some of you are like, oh my God, people fight Mary Grace. Yeah, they do. And people fight me, and I fight people sometimes. And that's all just part of the business. But ultimately, we all work together. We all have the same ultimate goal, to run a successful business, to have fun, to provide for our families, to enjoy each other, to have a job that's less stressful than your regular job. These are all the same. And when you keep that in mind, getting along with your own team and your sister leaders and your upline suddenly becomes a whole lot easier. I haven't really had to address this, but I feel like the election is making it worse, the upcoming election. Please keep your politics off of Facebook. I have always advised this. However, I think that we could all admit, no matter what your politics are, that it is about as volatile right now as it's ever been, at least in our lifetime. And if you choose to straight up post politics on your Facebook, you will alienate customers. You will alienate your own team, because I think everybody might be surprised to learn some other people's politics, and we're probably just better off not knowing it in a lot of cases. We had at one point somebody that was constantly posting, and that person's leader said to me, you know, with her posting that, it makes me wonder what she truly thinks of me. And I had been wondering if that person had been feeling that, and I was right, sadly. And here's to no one's surprise, she doesn't work here anymore, the person that did all the posting. Not because her leader fired her or because of any conflict that they had, she politicized herself out of direct sales. Because if you're only going to do business with the people that are going to, agree with your constant, whatever your views are, that's probably 50% of the people that are not going to choose to want to do business with you. And it wasn't always like this, but it's extra bad right now. So if you want to really discuss politics on Facebook, join a Facebook group of your political affiliations and beliefs and have at it, but keep it off of your regular Facebook. That's, of course, everybody's a grown woman and can decide what they want to do. That's my advice, though. Treat people fairly, because people will notice favorites, oh, she does this for this one, but not for me. You're not going to like everybody in your downline. And there are times that you have to do a favor to, if you're going to go out of your way to contact Eric to fix this situation for this person, you can't tell a different person, oh, call customer service. No, you have to do it for the ones that you don't like all that much either. All of these things are part of running a team. You're not going to love everybody on your team, and that's okay. Do you love everybody at your full-time job? Probably not. And yet you manage to work every day with them. So it's just, this is a great, fun place to be, but it's not utopia. There's still stuff, but we can generally move, past it. And just keep in mind in general that people do business with people they like, with people they know, and with people they trust. So I personally strive to just always be that person. Be the person they know, be the person they like, be the person they trust. Whether that's within my customers and also among you guys. Okay. Now, moving on. So that was the 3 qualities, but we're going to continue on now to just some more basics. Okay. Next basic, a great leader uses smart business practices. A great leader uses smart business practices. Those smart business practices include things like you're prepared for business all the time, right? That would include pretty much most of the time, looking like someone that could style others while out and about. That's not to say you can't ever run an errand in your gym clothes, but you could end up missing an opportunity when we choose to do that. And we've all been there. I'm not saying I never run errands on my way home from the gym. I totally do. But you'll definitely do better when out and about when you're not. Have your business cards. And again, I'm going over this with you as a leader, but again, these are things that we have to be reminding our team of, right? Have your clean and ready to go business cards, catalogs. Your paperwork should be ready to go. If you book a show unexpectedly, you can't open your closet and not have a host packet to send out, right? You have to have your materials ready at all the time and have extras on hand, because your team is not always going to have extras on hand. So you're going to have people turning to you and saying, do you have 5 catalogs? Can you bring them to the Sipman Style? Can I stop by tomorrow and grab 10 hostess brochures, whatever it is? And as the leader, you should have some of that extra stuff on hand. Earn your rich rewards, order them. Belinda and Donna are really good about, doing group orders and redistributing them at a meeting and stuff. So if your team is mostly local, that's a great service that you can offer to your locals and say, hey, I'm placing an order, especially when they do those, free shipping weekend and things like that. So, just kind of be ready. But a great business habit is to always know the next date that you want to fill, especially when it's like the hot night, So if Friday night is your big night, on the top of your head, you should always know when the next open Friday is, because that makes it easier to fill. That way, I remember I was sitting at a wrestling match one time, and I was meeting a new mom, and she was commenting on my jewelry, and then she said that she would like to book a show. I said, oh, well, are you thinking like a brunch weekend type of thing or a Friday night? Oh, a Friday night. And it was, in the winter when it's busy. Well, I guess it's always busy. But anyway, I said, I know that my next available Friday isn't until blah, blah, blah. And that's the only Friday I have after that for another 3 weeks. She goes, well, then I'll take it. I didn't have my calendar with me. I didn't have my for some reason, the info wasn't in my phone, but I knew I had that. And just like right now, I know my only available Friday before December is Black Friday. Every Friday is booked. So if someone says I want a Friday, then I'm going to pitch what a great show Black Friday day is. Black Friday is. Great show date. Okay, this another smart business practice. Know the reasons why we do shows and do them. Your team has to see you out there doing shows. We are in show business, right? That's where our highest commission is. That's where we find our client base. That's where we book more shows. That's where we find our leads to join. So at those shows, are we handing out 3 Style Your Success brochures at every party? Are we following up with those leads in a timely way? This is all, again, part of consistency. If 8 will make you great, you have to book 10 in order for those 8 to hold. Also, part of this is having a powerful presentation as part of your show. Back when I was with the other company, I had, every once in a while, I would run into other people's customers, because it was my whole lineage in my other company lived on Long Island. So there was plenty of business for all of us, but I definitely would run into like, oh, I have a show with Lisa. Oh, I had a show with Debbie. And I had people like occasionally pull me aside and be like, oh my God, I had no idea these parties were supposed to be fun. And I was like, of course, I'm dying to know, like, well, who do you normally go to shows with? And the same name would often come up, this like deadly woman. And I was like, oh my God. So one even booked a show with me, which I didn't normally do. If someone says I go with Lisa, I would always say, great, you should go book another show with Lisa. She's really funny. But this Debbie, people would come to me all the time. And the one woman was like, I really want to have a party, but I've been avoiding Debbie because she's so boring. But just so you know, she's kind of my neighbor. So if ever it comes up I had a party with you, you're my husband's cousin, just so you know. I was like, okay, no problem. But it's because Debbie did not have a powerful presentation. A powerful presentation, it's fun, it's informative, it's sprinkling the booking seeds, it's sprinkling the recruiting seeds, right? You have the recruiting talk in there. We talked about that on the Lunch and Learn today, that you can't leave that out. When you leave that out, you're leaving out the main reason you went to the party. The main reason we go to shows is to find new business and new people to join the team. Sales are an afterthought. If you just want sales, you could do that at a vendor event. You could do that online. Doing in-person shows is where you really find your business growth. We need to be, prepared to overcome objections. Some of that is preemptively done by sprinkling the right seeds. Some of it is done at the checkout. A great leader does customer care. Customer care kind of falls into the same category as like let me ask, so think about this. And when you say this to your team, they often respond, like they'll realize what you're talking about, because customer care gets you repeat business, right? You get people that reorder, you get the girl who books again from the year before. I'm on year 4 of like a certain circuit of people. They just re-upped again 2 weeks ago. I started this whole new circuit again. I was so excited. And their shows date back to originally starting in 2014. And it's because I circle back with them. I do customer care. I handle everything they need. If you walked into McDonald's right now and you said, so whose first time is it here at McDonald's today? How many people would raise their hand? Anyone in McDonald's having their first experience? I feel like that's not possible. Like very, very, I know we all have a first time sometimes, but I think it's normally when you're 4 and, you know, it's never as an adult. So when you're in there, if you said, is this anyone's first time to McDonald's? Everybody would look at you like, no, I've been here 10 million times. Yet, what's everybody doing? Reading the menu as though something new is there. When was the last time there was something new? I have no idea, but it's quite been some time. And then they order the number 4 that they get all the time anyway. So that's because, you know, they go back, they know what's there, whatever. And yet McDonald's still advertises all the time, don't they? They still mail out coupons all the time, knowing you are going back for that Big Mac at some point in your life, with or without advertising, with or without a coupon, you're going back. And yet, if we don't do customer care, we're making ourselves find brand new customers every single show, every single time. That's crazy. What if McDonald's was doing that? There'd be nobody in there. So customer care is tremendous. This is another area where your leadership sometimes has to step up, because the customer department at Park Lane is very nice, but they are pretty strict with the rules. You know, when it like after 4 months, it is $7 and $6.50 shipping. If it's been an exchange of an exchange, you can't exchange it again. There are some hard and fast rules that are hard to get around. With the piece is gone, it's gone. What are you going to do? That's where, as the leader, we need to diffuse the situation sometimes for a downline, right? Where you just pull something from your kit, you know what, send this to your customer. Or you need to diffuse a situation with your own customer. Because sometimes you're like, really, Belle? Was it necessary to speak to my customer like that? You know, but you don't express that to the customer. You don't express that to the downline. You say, you know what? I would love to, that piece was $80. What's something that's current that's $80 that you would like instead? And then whether you pull it from your kit, you use your rich rewards, you do what you got to do. But a disgruntled customer tells about 2.5 million people how annoyed they are and how bad the return policy is and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, it is a great return policy, but it's a great return policy until they can't get their way. Then all of a sudden it's the worst return policy ever. So please take the bull by the horns on that with your own customers and with your team. Whether you have to fix it or whether you have to reach up to one of us to help you fix it, I would much rather pull an item from my kit to one of your team members to end it and make their customer happy or make them happy or whatever, than to have them quit, because this is what fashion directors do. A fashion director will quit over a nasty, disgruntled customer. They will, because they're like, I don't need this. It took me 3 days to even make the phone call because they're closed by the time I get home from work. And the minute the business becomes more of a hassle than they feel it's worth, they'll quit. Whereas if they had just come to you and said, I cannot get these Belle earrings, then you realize, Belle earrings? Are you kidding me? We're having this drama over $32? I'll go on their website and buy a $32 pair of earrings to end something like that. So just be ready to fix things like that as the leader, because You want to be the advocate for your team, the advocate for the customer, and just make the customer happy. My favorite line that I use, and I've been trying to teach the team too, anytime someone sends a broken picture of something or my whatever is discolored, I always open the response with, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. Because now you're diffusing it right away because they're looking for a fight. They think they're not getting a new piece. So I'd rather thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I will email you an expedited return form so that it's all ready to go. Just print and send with the item to the address on the thing. If I know they're coming to a show in a week, I'll say, do me a favor, bring that to Carrie's party and I'll handle it for you from there. Because plus also now she'll come to the party. I'll say, keep it in your bag, hand it to me discreetly, and I will take care of that for you. And they laugh. And all of a sudden, it's fine. Okay? So anyway, that's that. Questions or thoughts on that? I know that tonight has been a lot of theory, but this is all kind of that overall review about leadership so that next week, we can really talk about the schedule of what you can do each day. You know, as a leader, what do you do each day, each week, each month, each quarter, and each year? But this is, you know, the foundation part, so that we'll be ready for that. So I know we're at 10 o'clock, so I'm just going to do these last two parts really quick. Great leaders work with their new recruits. You can't emphasize enough the importance of getting them off to a strong start. Use that getting to know you form so that you know what their goals are. I loved that story and we talked about it on today's Lunch and Learn, where Phyllis had a new team member that was so excited with her $200 paycheck because she was going to get to go out to lunch twice this week instead of having to pack lunch all 5 days. And she hasn't been out to lunch with the girls in the office in a long time. I love that. I absolutely love that. So that's what I mean about when they say they want extra money. What are you using that extra money for? So that when they say, I don't know if I'm going to continue. Well, wait, I know that you joined this business to pay for Tiffany's dance lessons for the competitive dance team. Is she not doing the team anymore? Oh, no, she is. Oh, all right. Well, then how are you paying for it? Because that's what I know you were using this money for. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to. Well, why? Why pull it from somewhere else? Let's find you that show. Women are connected to the things that money buy, not necessarily the money itself. So that's why we have to attach their goal and their monetary goals to the items or experiences or the things that money is going to buy. If they tell you, I've had an old, disgusting bathroom for so long and I really need to remodel the bathroom, then, okay, so how much is it we got an estimate, it's going to be, $15,000. Okay, so let's chunk that down. If you make X amount of dollars, let's see, how much is the toilet? Let's pay off the toilet, whatever it is. Are you going to be on a payment plan? So how much is that? They're going to give you a payment plan for the home equity loan. Okay, how much is the home equity loan going to be? $400. Okay, great. So let's get you making $400 a month or whatever it is, so that they can stay attached to the goal. Work on them with the list of 100. Make sure they're on the welcome call. Did they open the welcome email? Are they working on that checklist? Are you doing an in-person kit orientation? I really feel like that's a huge thing to do. And if you're close by, you should be sitting at a kitchen table, sitting in Panera, sitting at their house, your house, and going over every single item in that kit. Every single piece of jewelry that they chose, every single piece of paper in that kit. What is it for? How are they going to use it? And what should they order more of real soon? It really helps form the relationship. Talking to them before and after their early shows, talking to them weekly. That's a lot, and it's the most amount of time you're spending with any part of your team, but that's also why you're making 10 to 15% on those people, depending on your level. And you do get the best results out of your new people because they're excited, they're new, and they will generally do anything you say in the beginning. When they start seeing success, they'll continue to do it. If they don't, then they start fading out. Which really brings us to the final point of tonight, which is that great leaders are lifelong learners. So always be a student of your business. You've heard me say this a million times, and I'm a big believer in it myself. When I was first brought into Park Lane, they were like, you can bring Anthony to the convention and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? No. I had never been to Las Vegas before. I said, you know what? I just really need to be a student of my business. I want to sit, I want to pay attention. And at the end of the night, I want to go back to my room and go over my notes and study. And of course, I cried and stuff too and whatever. But I just really wanted to be a student of my business without any distractions. So, and I continue to be a student of my business. So, you stay on top of your trainings that are available to you. So if you have not been on the habit of coming on the Thursday leader calls, and you know that you could, if you try, if you did this, that, or the other thing, then do that so that you can be a part of it. Or if you say, I watched the recordings, but when you really look back at it, you've watched one recording in the last month and a half, you are definitely missing out on things that we're talking about. So where in your schedule can you put that watching that recording back so that you can feed yourself? Are you actively participating in the lunch and learn, or again, watching it back, putting something in the comments, asking your team if they watched it, talking to them about it? That's all part of your learning as well, is engaging in their thought process in watching some of this training. Because you may know all these things, but someone's going to ask you, hey, I didn't really know what she meant when she was talking about blah, blah, blah. That's helping you grow as a leader, talking them through that. When your team is doing a local event, or you see another leader having a local event, go. I've driven to Scott events in every state within 3 states of New York so that I could go learn what they were or see what they were about. When it wasn't my team, when it wasn't my upline, and I've always done that. When Mary Grace does the leader webinar on the 1st of the month, keep that on your calendar. She puts time into those trainings. She does recognition. She does prizes. If you fill out a form, fill out the form, be in the raffle. Because then your team sees you winning stuff and they're like, hey, what's that about? They want to be a part of it. And the home office is now doing a leader Zoom, which is going to be now on the first Thursday of the month, where they're going to do all the announcements before the network comes out. So that thing we've been coming on Fridays, it's getting moved to Thursday mornings, 10 Central, so that we get the announcements first. Because your team ultimately follows your lead. If they see you participating in a whole bunch of stuff, they participate in a whole bunch of stuff. If they see you don't, they assume that it's not important. And it is important. So again, I know that this was a very theory-oriented class, but I felt like we needed to kind of go over some of these things as a reminder or a refresher so that next week we can really talk scheduling. But is there anything that anyone would like to add or ask or comment on about tonight?
I do.
Yes.
I noticed a lot of it comes back to something Jen and Jessica and I were talking about last week. We're talking about cultivating the relationships. So our customer care and even our downlines, getting to know them so that we know how to better meet their needs. If something's going on in their life and we know it's specific, that Park Lane can help, like you're saying, planning for budgeting or that kind of thing. So I have started incorporating into my follow-ups and stuff, just asking about something that I have seen on someone's Facebook wall or a conversation we've had. If my last text message to them, for example, was about Park Lane, I'll try to incorporate something in there. Hey, how's Tiffany? Or how are those ballet classes? Or how is, something completely non-jewelry related, even if we didn't have a good relationship before, constantly building that bond as part of our customer care.
Love it.
It's been
Yeah. And especially, when some of these relationships are not close by, that's the kind of extra effort you have to put in when people don't live near you, or they're an online customer, or they're a long distance team member. All of that, does factor in. That's totally true. Because it's really fun when you reach the point with your customers where they're like, Michelle, my son's, engaged, and I just got my mother the groom dress, and I need jewelry. And it's like, oh my God, she thought of me. I love that. I love being part of people's like fun events, and it's happening more and more now that we're here. The longer you're here, the more these things come up. So, but without relationships and without constant circling back and staying on top with people, you won't have that. You'll have sold to them one time and they're on to the next. Okay, so was this helpful at all tonight? Was it a good review at least? Okay, good. So next week will be much more nitty gritty, because like I said, next week what we're going to do is talk about some of the actual nuts and bolts scheduling habits and what reports that you click on to get the information to do those things. So there'll be a whole lot of screen share next week and use of reports so that you can actually take some notes down of what to click to do each thing. And then I'll tell you well, you guys kind of know what I do. You know the ones I do publicly. You don't probably know all the extra little examination things that I do on Fridays. But I'll show you what, at this level, you would start here. Once you hit this level of leadership, you can add on this, and so on and so forth. So that'll be next Tuesday. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Bye.